So this is a really odd video for me to make, given that most people know me through my Twitter profile. So when I am commenting on social media and I'm commenting about it as not necessarily a good thing, um, it's usually not what people would expect me to say. But some things need to be said, and I think it's important that people who have been around on social media acknowledge them and say them. So, and I am commenting in particular on Twitter. There are a lot of good things about Twitter where it has democratized voice in a sense, where news that is not usually reported on news media can easily be shared, where activist voices, where voices from more marginalized communities can sort of, aim for equal space on merit, or at least be heard, so to say. I wouldn't call it equal space on merit because it isn't really equal. Privilege still has much more visibility even on social media. But still, there are good points, and in times like the lockdown, it is very definitely a source of entertainment, information, connection with people. I am someone who has actually managed to exit an abusive relationship through help I found on Twitter. I have been able to uh, have medical treatment for my son through support I found on Twitter. So I most definitely am not calling all social media or even all of Twitter evil. But I'm looking at this as a time to be aware of the larger impact on social life, on public thinking, on policies, and the overall impact on politics and how it can be exploited for politics. One of the biggest changes in the last, say, 10-15 years, if we have to see, is the demise of forums and blogs and other spaces which are not really news sites or official websites of anything, but the hobbyist forums, blogs, personal blogs. People used to just write blogs like a diary. It's reduced considerably, and you have the rise of social media. And what this has resulted in is a change in the speed with which we interact with the world around us. Where initially you used to experience things, you used to analyze them, or you used to draw your own conclusions and share those conclusions as a blog. Or if there were forums about a specific topic, very often you used to have very rich interactions that could go into considerable depth around the subject. Forums also used to serve as an archive of knowledge, where as someone who is a hobbyist who grows carnivorous plants, I don't think I would have had as much success as I did without all the rich knowledge from the forums, the archives of forums being available. Now, this practice of archiving knowledge itself, or through blogs, when you reflect and present detailed thoughts, this practice itself is decreasing. It's a more reactive world. So you have someone making a tweet, and within seconds you have people responding to it. You have some news coming out, and within seconds you have comments about it, people opposing it or supporting it or retweeting it, sharing it. Within a couple of hours, if it's significant news, within a couple of hours you probably see cartoons come up about it, and more. The speed at which information is interacted with has become very fast, from hours, often days on end, before a response came up as a blog. or actual life experiences and things people did resulting in forum posts. You have now come to a time where you see something and you react to it instantly. This reduces the depth of thinking. It's a very reactive world, and it is also very easy to provide very limited information and get reactions on the basis of that limited information, which prevents in-depth knowledge, because very strong opinions are often formed on the basis of very little knowledge. So, everybody is an expert on Twitter. So you may not necessarily need to have specific experience. You may not need to have specific competence. If you have a Twitter account, you can just comment on it, and you don't even have to justify your thoughts too much. You can directly tweet out your opinion, because there's really limited space, unless you are into doing very lengthy threads which not many people read. You end up simply presenting conclusions or reactions. And while this has its own space, it is resulting in a world that is fast losing its ability to think in depth, to take some piece of information in, let it marinate, let it trigger thoughts, link to different other ideas in your mind, and come up with an original point of view that is quite detailed, as we used to do with blogs. Another danger, and this in particular is when it comes to activism, is this sense of outrage. And this is something that we also see exploited by politics very often, where news management happens through simply triggering outrages to sweep away other things from public view. But more important than that, for people who are really interested in seeing change happen, what happens with social media is inconsequential venting. For example, some kind of an injustice happens in the world. Maybe you come to know about some kind of corruption, maybe you come to know about some crime, maybe it's a caste crime, maybe it's a crime against women, maybe it's something that reflects alarming trends in society. It may be about the coronavirus, it may be about many things. What happens is, when you vent on Twitter, what happens is you feel a strong emotion on the basis of the information that has come in, and where you could take some kind of a strong action, the urge, the disturbance you feel gets spent. It gets spent with inconsequential venting through tweets that nobody will care about, maybe in an hour, maybe in a day, maybe in a week. But it will not result in anything concrete. So, for example, simply being angry about something on Twitter is, I don't know how to explain this, but when something disturbs you, when you don't approve of something, when you think some action is necessary, when you really feel strongly about something, the first time you speak about it in detail is when you really expend all the emotion, that burning urge to do something about it. Okay, when that urge finds release, it's no longer burning in you. You may still feel it, you may not lose your opinion, but that sense of a pressure cooker that needs to act gets spent away doing something that literally has no lasting value, no impact. And this, I think, is very dangerous when it comes to challenging troublesome status quos, because all that anger that gets spent on social media could have been spent doing something with more consequence. And this, I think, is very serious, because in a way the injustice thrives because the objection to it gets neutralized. I'm not sure if it's very clear from the way I'm explaining this, but ineffective action in itself is support. It becomes support through lack of proper resistance. And this, I think, is something activists are losing sight of, because there are so many things that disturb, there are so many things that provoke anger. It is fast becoming a situation where it's like a game of table tennis, where you've got a new outrage coming in, you express your anger, then there's something else coming in, you express your anger, and it's like nothing being absorbed, nothing marinating. And because nothing really stays in and festers and disturbs you, nothing also explodes out. All you have is momentary anger. You don't have something that really festers in your mind and compels you to do something about it, because that whole fiction, it's a fake action, okay? Not even fiction, but it's a fake action where you get a sense of having done something about it by talking about it, by saying that you don't like it, or being sarcastic about it. But in reality, you have done nothing. If, for example, you believe that, say, crimes against women are increasing and we need to find a way to support women better, or we need to teach them self-defense, or whatever it is, if that need festers in your mind and it stays in your mind, and you're thinking circles around it, sooner or later you will come up with productive ways to do something about it. But because the act of making a social media post or making a tweet is an action, your mind gets fooled into thinking you've done something about it, when in reality you haven't really done much. You've done nothing of consequence. And this, I think, is dangerous because it prevents addressing a lot of wrongs by fooling our minds into thinking we are doing a lot by simply commenting. But this is not true, and this is very dangerous, because it sort of diverts people who would actually be acting otherwise, who should be acting otherwise. And I think this is increasing, and this is also being exploited by politics, where a government that would not like to be scrutinized too much simply manages public opinion by giving the public something to be angry about. And anger is a very addictive emotion. When it comes to talking about things like, say, love, fear, things that expose your vulnerability, it is much harder. Anger is a reaction. It's not an emotion so much as a reaction. Very often it's rooted in fear. Very often it's rooted in disgust. But the anger in itself is not so much of an emotion as it is a reaction. It is an attack against whatever makes us feel things that are far more difficult to verbalize. So in a way, we stop acknowledging what we feel as well by being continually addicted to this anger. And it is polarizing society, and it is giving the corrupt people, the people who would like to get away with a pseudo kind of public accountability, without actually being accountable, because it simply distracts people from the questions. And this is being exploited massively. I mean, these days it's almost predictable where, particularly when it comes to the government, where if there are awkward headlines where the government doesn't really have answers for its actions, soon enough you will find some stupid person say something ridiculously absurd, outrageous, and people get distracted. People get distracted into commenting on it. And this is how social media manipulates minds, because it controls where people's attention will be. This whole democratic nature of social media is not true. I mean, a simple example would be if you look at the profiles of influential people, you will find the same tendencies that we recognize as injustice in the world. Among influencers, you will find very few Dalit profiles in comparison with upper caste ones. Among influencers, you will find massive verified accounts, far more among the rich than the poor. Among the Western world than in India. Things like this. So those injustices are still reflected in the online world. Also, this democracy is fake because it sort of nullifies merit. It is a pseudo equality where there should not be equality. For example, if the subject is something related with medicine, a doctor should have more weight than a lay person. If you are talking about a pandemic, someone claiming an Ayurvedic cure and a doctor who actually is saying that this is not a cure, this is a problem, cannot both have equal weight. So this equality is pseudo, and it tends to favor the sensation seekers rather than those who give measured, serious opinions, which may not be as dramatic. So in a sense, it warps democracy by creating this false equality. But basically it's not an equality, it is more of a change of parameters of what gets importance. Where whatever is sensation seeking gets importance, and whatever depends on detailed information which may be too tedious to be trendy, to be attractive, to be entertaining, that just sort of vanishes somewhere. This is dangerous. Earlier, when you used to have blogs or forum posts, people could actually take a line of thought into more detail, provide reasoning, ask for reasoning if it is not provided, and so on. This kind of a thinking is vanishing, and I think that is dangerous. So these are a few things. There are actually quite a few things. I mean, social media has basically reduced the detail in exchange for sensation and volume. And at some point we have to be aware that this importance given to sensation over knowledge, over things that really matter, over more enriching emotions, somewhere it is influencing us and not for the better. And if we are aware of this, then we can consciously try and be more open to influences that are deeper. It is possible. It's possible on social media as well, and there are people who do it. To be more measured, to be more rooted in knowledge, to be less influenced by triggers that are provided, for lack of a better word, where if you see the public being manipulated towards abandoning a certain subject and being triggered into outraging about something inconsequential, to be aware of that and to somehow, frankly, I don't know how, because I don't think it's really possible on social media to any good extent, but to somehow return to a slower, more long form kind of thinking. I think without this, the stupidification of the country and the world cannot really be halted. When we understand, we respond. When we don't understand, we simply react. If we are not absorbing inputs before we comment on them, I think this is very dangerous for all of us.